Go.
My name is Mike Sampson. I am from Caldwell, New Jersey. That's where I went to elementary school. I graduated from Montclair High School. I went to Radford University there.
Where's that?
Radford is in Virginia, Southwest Virginia, in the mountains. Growing up, I loved to play baseball, soccer, and basketball. I'd say were my favorite sports. Now I'm married, and my wife is a wonderful tennis player, so that's mostly what I do, is she beats me in tennis. We have a son. His name is Matthew. He is 2 years old. So that's just a little bit about me. My grandmother is from Warsaw, Poland. She grew up in the capital of Poland. When she was about 13 years old, World War II started, and the Nazis invaded her hometown. And they went into an air raid and decimated essentially the entire city of Warsaw. So imagine New York City skyline being completely flat, and that's what happened. And so her home was destroyed, and the Nazis then occupied her hometown, and she had to move out into the countryside to live with her aunt, while her parents tried to restore their grocery store and an apartment. And
so they had a house, you said, but the house was destroyed by the air raids. You said, was it air raids? And
air
then,
raids, yeah.
But they had a store.
And they had a store in Warsaw. It was kind of a neighborhood grocery store and catering place. And that survived, but the house that they were living in was destroyed.
Okay.
And so they then had to move into a 2-bedroom apartment, which then housed a family of 7. So it was pretty tight quarters. Now, the Nazis came in and occupied Warsaw, and they controlled everything. And there was a curfew. They controlled the food supply, which impacted the grocery store. And they would come and they would take people and take them away to camps. They took mostly, at first, just Jewish people, but then they just took anybody, women, children, men, and my grandmother was taken. And she was taken to a concentration camp, and that camp was surrounded by barbed wire, and it was a camp where they did hard labor. And so she was about 13 or so when she was...
Was she with her parents, or...?
She was separated from her entire family.
Okay.
In addition, she also lost her oldest sister in the war, being chased by Nazis through the city. So really just completely turned her life upside down, her family's life upside down.
And so they took her and they put her in this camp all by herself when she was 13, and it was work. So
yep.
So what did they do? Like what was her life like?
She just, from the time she woke up till the time she went to bed, it was hard labor. It was digging. It was, all kinds of stuff. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah.
But I know that they didn't feed her well, and that she would collapse out of hunger. And certainly a lot of people died in the camp. And she was not Jewish. She was Polish Catholic. So it was not something that
they expected, right? I mean,
well, the Nazis didn't really care about anybody. They basically wanted to make an example out of Warsaw and out of Poland, and establish kind of dominance and power. And so they took anybody they felt like taking at any point, and would either take them away or they'd take them on the side of a building and shoot them.
And it wasn't like anybody could stop them, right?
No.
I mean, you just couldn't. You couldn't stop the force that was the mean force.
Your best chance was to hide.
Okay.
That was it. Yeah, it was...
Okay.
There was nothing you could do.
So it's not like the people watching this could do something because they would be next, right?
Yeah. If you stepped in, likely what would happen is you would be taken away either to a camp or you'd be taken to a side of the building and be shot yourself.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she'd work in these camps all day from morning till night at 13. And she was sad, lonely, sick, hungry. And so what was something, tell the story about what the man did for her.
Well, so she was in a Nazi camp, and the Nazis, she says, were monsters. They were awful, and they didn't care about anybody and their lives. But there were some wonderful German people too, and she told me just a couple weeks ago about the story of one particular thing that happened to her while she was in a camp one day, and she, like I said, was made to work hard labor from the time she woke up till the time she went to bed. She wasn't fed well. She collapsed an awful lot due to hunger. And one day when she was working at kind of near the fence, there is the camps are surrounded by barbed wire fence, and she was working near the fence, and there was a tree line kind of in the distance, and she noticed a man coming from the tree line, and she saw him walking closer and closer, and as he was getting closer, she saw that he was carrying something kind of bundled up in his shirt. And as he came closer, what happened is that she saw that it was apples. It was freshly picked apples that he was coming to give to her. And so he walked right up to the fence, and he handed these apples to her through the fence. And she was just ecstatic. And in German, she just said, Dankeschön, Dankeschön, which just means thank you so much. And to her, it was like an angel just came from heaven and gave her this manna, this food in the wilderness. And if the man who did this had been caught, he likely would have been thrown into camp himself or killed. And in fact, I talked to somebody from one of our worship services who said that same thing happened to his grandfather, that he tried to help and was himself put in a camp.
So what's interesting is that you said she just told you this story, like your grandmother just told you this story?
She's 83, and she just told me the story 2 weeks ago.
And why? Like, what made her think of that story?
Well, these experiences where we get hurt and where our lives are affected by other people's bad behavior towards us stick with us throughout our lives. And so do the stories of people who have done good things for us stick with us throughout our lives. And so, she just was talking about her experiences during the war and shared that experience with me.
Wow. So that means if she's 83 and that was 13, that was 70 years. She remembered while talking to you something that happened 70 years ago that stuck with her, what one person did for her.
Right. That's right.
Wow. Great. All right. We'll tell your grandmother we said thanks for the story.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.